Hello everybody, so good that you're back here for a brand new story. Before I begin, please will you subscribe? It really would make me super happy. And for you, you'd get a reminder when there's a new story out. Thank you to those who have already subscribed and hoping that the others will join. Our story today is called Once Upon a Time. The story and the pictures in this book is by Niki, Daly. Once upon a time. What do we see here? A wide open dusty field, dusty plain. There I can see somebody walking up the road, and also along the side of the road there is a windmill. By 8 o'clock, the karoo was starting to bake, sending the scent of wild herbs into the dry air. The dirt road to Hopefield, straight as a ruler, stretched forever. Sarie knew the road well. She walked along it every day to school and back again. The long walk did not bother her. She was a dreamer, and her legs were strong. It was school that bothered her. Oh dear, I wonder why she was bothered with school. You see, she walks along this long, straight road all the way to school and back again every day. There's not much to see, but if you look carefully, you'll see there are a whole lot of sheep there next to that windmill. Sheep in the karoo. The karoo is a semi-desert area in South Africa. Look there on the fence, there sits a crow. And the sun is baking down on her. That must be a really, really hot walk. When Mr. Adonis said, "Children, take out your reading books," a sick feeling would grip Sarie, making her hands tremble and her voice disappear. Sarie hated reading books aloud in class. Oh, there she is. And the teacher, Mr. Adonis, is saying, "Take out your reading books." And of course, Sarie is nervous. She doesn't like reading in class. Those words, so many of them running together, row after row, page after page, they tripped up her tongue. She stuttered and stammered over them. When it was her turn to read, the children in the back row giggled. "Take your time, Sarie," Mr. Adonis said kindly. Okay, so he's a kind teacher saying that she must take her time to get the reading done properly. But at the back of the class, there's some nasty little kids giggling at her. "Take your time, Sarie," teased Charmaine and Carmen after school. "Take your time," joined in the smaller children. Only Emile stood back and said nothing. He knew that Charmaine and Carmen were jealous of Sarie because she was as pretty as a princess. And his name is not Emily. I read that wrong. It's Emile. So Emile is kind to Sarie. He doesn't tease her. But all these other children here are teasing her that she struggles to read in class. And Mr. Adonis, the teacher there, he's quite patient with her. And he says, "Take your time." At home, Sarie was called the late lamb because she had been born long after her older brothers. Her family all worked long, hard hours on the sheep farm, except on Sundays when they rested. After lunch, her father took a nap, while her mother sat in the shade of the blue gum tree, doing her big loopy knitting. But after a few rows, she too would fall asleep. There's Sarie's mother, sitting sleeping under the tree outside. She was knitting, but she has fallen fast asleep. Then Sarie would run across the veld to the ridge. That was where old Ou Missus lived, and there she would be, sitting in her rusted up old car, waiting for Sarie. There you go. Then Sarie would climb into the driver's seat and pretend to be taking a Sunday drive somewhere, far, far away. Okay, so this old rusted car, they would play in on a Sunday and pretend that they were driving somewhere far, far away. As they drove, Ou Missus would tell stories of once upon a time when she was young and her car was shiny. There's Ou Missus sitting in the car with Sarie. They're pretending to be travelling somewhere, but that car is not going anywhere. And while they're driving, Ou Missus is telling stories about long, long ago. Sarie would tell Ou Missus everything. How she hated reading aloud, how the words stuck in her throat like dry bread, and how the children laughed at her. People can be cruel, said Ou Missus, but don't give up, Sarie. It's so good to be able to read well and enjoy books. That is so true. That's some good advice from Ou Missus. She's telling Sarie, don't give up with your reading. It's so wonderful to be able to read. You just keep practicing. One Sunday, tired of driving, Sarie climbed into the back. Dreamily, she ran her hands over the brittle leather into the darkness between the seat and the backrest. There she is. She's climbed into the back of the car, and it looks like she's stuck her hand down between the seat and the backrest. Then she felt it, something under the seat. She pulled, and out came a dusty old book. She jumped into the front seat with the book. The cover creaked as she opened it. There she sits in the front with the book that she'd found. My goodness, Sarie, said Ou Missus. Look, it says, to Lizzie, with love from Mama and Papa. This book belonged to my daughter. Read it to me, pleaded Sarie. The old woman shook her head. No, Sarie. Sarie looked puzzled. Then Ou Missus's mouth crinkled with a smile. We will read it together. Once upon a time, the wife of a rich man fell ill. It was a lovely story about a beautiful girl and two ugly stepsisters. Reading with Ou Missus was fun. In some parts, Sarie read alone. Then, just before a word would trip her up, Ou Missus would join in until the story ended. So Cinderella married her prince and lived happily ever after. That's a story that you probably know. Cinderella, there she is with her two ugly sisters, and of course at the end of the story, Cinderella marries her prince and they live happily ever after. So that's the book that they were reading in the car. As the sun dipped behind the ridge, Ou Missus closed the book. Sarie felt too happy to speak. "It's your book now," said Ou Missus, patting Sarie's head. "Next Sunday we will read it again." Look at them sitting there in that rusted old car, and the sun setting, making beautiful colours in the sky. There's a rooster on the top of the car, and they've just had a wonderful afternoon reading the book Cinderella. The next day, Sarie couldn't wait to get to school. She wanted to show Mr. Adonis her beautiful book. "Ah, Cinderella," said Mr. Adonis. "Read it to us, sir," cried the children. As Mr. Adonis read, Sarie remembered all of it. She could even see some of the words. Look there, she's got her eyes closed, I think, and she's imagining the words because she'd read that book the day before. So as Mr. Adonis was reading, she knew what he was reading. She could see the words. Then Mr. Adonis asked the children to take out their reading books. Excitedly, Sarie opened her reading book, but when it was her turn to read aloud, the words tangled around her tongue and she started to stammer. "Take your time, Sarie," said Mr. Adonis. Emile looked at Sarie. Her eyes filled with tears as she struggled to get the words out. Charmaine and Carmen giggled in the back row. There's Charmaine and Carmen, the two girls that aren't so friendly, giggling at Sarie here, trying to read. And there's Emile. He feels quite sorry for her. He's not laughing and giggling. When Sarie saw Ou Missus, she told her all about it. "Emile is the only one who doesn't laugh," said Sarie. "Well, he sounds like a prince," said Ou Missus. Then she clapped her hands and said, "And guess who you can be." She dashed into her house and came out carrying an old evening gown. It smelt musty, but it sparkled as it fell over Sarie's shoulders. "My princess," declared Ou Missus with a low bow. "There's Sarie. She's got Ou Missus's old evening dress on. It's a beautiful blue sparkly dress, and she's felt like a princess." On the Sundays that followed, Sarie read her favourite book for Ou Missus. The more she read, the less afraid she felt about reading in class, and the less afraid she felt, the better she read. There she is, reading her book with Ou Missus. Every Sunday they would be reading, and after all that practice, her reading aloud in class got better and better, and she felt less and less nervous. One day, Miss November, the school principal, here she is, visited the classroom to hear the children read. One by one they read aloud. Soon it was Sarie's turn. She opened her reading book, and suddenly the old sick feeling came back. What if she makes a mistake and lost her place? What if she found her place but lost her voice? Mr. Adonis waited patiently. The class started to fidget. Sarie thought about all the words she had read with Ou Missus. She could see them. Lots of friendly letters, holding hands to form words that danced and sang together. She could feel Ou Missus beside her. Bravely, she took a deep breath and started to read. The words poured out as clear as spring water. "You read beautifully, beautifully, said Miss November. Out of the corner of her eye, Sarie could see Emile smiling. There's Emile smiling at her, and of course she is reading beautifully because she'd practiced so much with Ou Missus. One deep breath, and then she was reading. After school, Sarie and Emile walked home together. There they are, walking home together. Would you like to go for a drive in my car? asked Sarie. Emile laughed. Where's your car? I'll show you, said Sarie, taking his hand. There you go, taking his hand, and she's running down the road, and they're going to that old rusty car, aren't they? When Ou Missus saw them coming over the hill, she waved. Come on, let's get going, she shouted. Sarie jumped into the driver's seat. Ou Missus took a back seat so that Emile could sit in the front. So you're Emile, said Ou Missus. Yes, said Emile shyly. I'm Sarie's friend. That's good, said Ou Missus. Don't you think she reads beautifully? Yes, said Emile. I bet you didn't know she could drive. No, giggled Emile. So there they are, sitting in the car. Sarie's pretending to be driving, and Emile is going along for the ride. Where are we heading for, Sarie? Asked Ou Missus, settling back. Far, far away, said Sarie. Before them, the flat expanse of the little karoo stretched as far as the eye could see. Ridges shimmered on the hazy horizon like far-away castles. And as Sarie took the wheel, the air stood still, and it seemed almost once upon a time. So there they are, they're imagining that they are driving far, far away. What a beautiful story. And what did we learn here? We learned about practicing. If you have something that you'd really like to do, you need to practice, and eventually you'll be able to do it. Just like Sarie learned how to read beautifully. I think we also learned that it's not very friendly to giggle at people that are struggling with something. And Emile was a good friend. He didn't giggle at Sarie. He stayed being her friend regardless of whether or not she could read. And of course, Ou Missus was so kind to encourage Sarie to read and to improve her reading. I hope you enjoyed that story all the way in the Karoo in South Africa. It looks like a really dry, half-desert, semi-desert area, doesn't it? But there look to be some beautiful people living there. Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll join me again soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye, Serena. Mwah.